Let's get to our next guest, decalmx.com, promo code PulpMX23 to get 20% off your custom graphics. Decal Works, number one for many reasons. And thanks to the folks at Decal Works for coming on board with us. And when you think of Maxima USA, which is on the show, you think of 927, which is on Wednesday. And you think of Maxima, Trevor, and the great Ron Lechien. What's up, Dogger? How are you, man?
What's happening, Steve-O, and everybody in there? Nice to be on the show. Big fan.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's not always easy to get you on, but Trevor and I, we guilted you into it. It was great, Dogger.
Yeah, no, I owed you, man. I'm a big fan of the show, and like I said, Observations is one of my favorite columns to read every week. So
thank you.
I owe you a little bit.
Thanks.
There.
I appreciate it. 927 Day coming up on Wednesday also, by the way. Maxima USA, Pulp 20 is the code to save. Dogger, it was cool being back in the LA Coliseum. We hadn't been there since 99 for Summercross, since 98 for Supercross. You've raced there a ton. When I think of you in the Coliseum, I think of a couple of great races in 89. I think of the Rodale Cup. What about you? What did you think of when racing the Coliseum?
Well, my first experience with the Coliseum was when I was an amateur, so I did win a race there. I think I won the 9 to 11 expert class there in 1978.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it might have been a GNC race, Grand National Championship race.
Yep.
And Jimmy Weiner presented me with my trophy, which is pretty cool. I have some pictures of that there in the infield with the Toyota truck in the background. So that was my first experience with the Coliseum, and then I raced there in 84. I don't think we went there in 83. 84, we were there. I was leading the main event, got the whole shot, and lost the front wheel in a slick turn, man. that dirt gets so hard based, and when the night hits and the dew, man, it just front end just went. So that was that. But that was the night they also had the Miller Masters race. Which,
with the pink gear. Yeah, Brock.
Yeah, so I got second to the Golden Patch that night. And
What was that, a winners take all thing, or did you take money for second? I don't remember.
I got $15,000 and the winner got 30.
Yeah, which at the time, 30 grand, 10 laps or 5 laps or something. It was huge.
Yeah.
Huge money.
Yeah, I forget if it was 10 or 12, something like that.
Yeah. I was stoked because Rollerball got into that. Some sort of Canadian guy got in. I was stoked that Rollerball got into that thing because it was like,
That's cool. Yeah, they had two of them. They had one in Seattle and one in LA Coliseum. I got second in both of them, and the one in Seattle, O'Mara won.
Was it cool to go up and down the peristyle? Like, do you have any memories of that? Like, it was a long time ago, but was it cool to do that?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was super cool. I mean, I obviously went there as a kid, and I went there, I think, in 82 watching, maybe 81 or 82, the year they had all the reflective tape on all the Yamahas, Mike Bell.
Oh, yeah.
RJ and all that. It was, like, super cool looking, and, it was very nostalgic, and I was pumped to go. There was always fun. You had to be a little careful. The lighting obviously wasn't as good as it is now, and you just had to be a little careful.
There was also, too, maybe one of the most famous ones. I don't even know, Dogger, if you were there. Maybe you were hurt or whatever, but RJ, first turn, crashed to win. Guy Cooper was leading.
Yep.
Cooper never won a Supercross, led 3 of them on the last lap, and never ended up winning one. And that was 87, Dogger. I don't know where you were in that, if you were there, or I don't remember.
Yeah, I think I went down in the first turn in 87, I think.
Yeah.
I might have won the heat, and then there was a big pile up in the first turn, and I was down and out. But, yeah, there's been a couple of them. A good one was I thought 86 was the year they had the big quad, and I cut over on RJ.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a big one, yeah. That was the one where Hannah was putting his hand up and not jumping it.
Yeah.
And then I remember watching it, and they were like, Hannah, he's 28. He's so old. And nowadays, of course,
he got a nickname that night. I love Bob, and he's a great guy, but he got the Hurricane Crybaby nickname that night.
Yeah, he was
crying about that jump.
Yeah, he was pissed about the jumps, right? It was funny.
Yeah.
Hey, Dogger, what'd you think of SMX, the 3 races? I know you're a big fan of the sport. You watch them. What'd you think?
I thought it was awesome, man. I was super stoked to get 3 extra races to watch and check out. And in the last one, the intensity was so high, and it was really worth something. And you could see the guys that were, it wasn't just laying up, man. It was, and the different tracks and the way it kind of worked out. And I wasn't sure how the Coliseum would end up being. I wasn't aware until probably when I talked to you that they were going to use the whole floor. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they used to not be able to use the football field, so I thought it might be kind of just run around the outside. But man,
Yeah.
it looked like it turned out bitching, and yeah, I wasn't planning on going, and then I found out late that Kawasaki thing was going on, and I hadn't made plans, and I thought I'd lay back for a year and see how the first one went, and maybe check it out next year.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was cool. You weren't at the Cowie thing, were you?
That's what he's saying.
No, I
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
even
you
know
didn't go.
about it.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what he's saying.
Yeah, I didn't even know about it till like Wednesday, and I was like, well, shit, it'd been nice to. I'd have had to go up, stay for a couple days to make
Yeah.
it right.
Yeah,
just
no,
didn't.
it was cool. It was awesome to see it. Maxima USA, by the way, 927 day, Trevor, coming up. So the company basically started with Maxima 927 oil, right?
Yeah,
that's how it started.
Yeah, that's when it all began.
Dick
and-
Lechien, Ronnie's dad's first product, really, with
Yeah.
two-stroke mixing oil.
Yeah, so Ronnie he knows the story perfect. He was, really close to it, and
Yeah.
and a big part of the testing and development and everything that went into that. So it's kind of the day we all sit back and kind of reflect on
Yeah.
what the brand is today, and you know how it started, and 927 is a product that's still very popular. We still sell a lot of that product.
That's what's crazy. So, like, you see these brands, iconic brands, Fox, Axo, whatever, Maxima. There's brands in the industry that are iconic. They're not necessarily selling what they sold on day one, right? Like JT Racing made their name in socks, right? And Fox made their name in shocks and things like that. And they're not selling anymore. But you guys are like, yeah, the first product that we still sell it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I mean the guys that are still using. I mean, you could talk to Mitch about it. You could talk to 10 different engine builders that have been around that product or around the brand. I mean, they swear by it. I was just talking with Mitch at Mammoth a little bit, and I mean, he'll tell you exactly the ratio, the jetting, exactly what you need to do, everything to the spec for what should happen at Mammoth. And so it's very cool.
Ronnie, what's your first, did your dad, I don't know, did he I maybe this is a dumb question. Did he put you to work at Maxima early? Were you doing bottling or shipping, or were you 10 years old? Because my dad owned a gas station growing up, and I was pumping gas at 10 years old. I really was. Because my dad's just like, hey, kid, start doing this. Were you doing that, Dogger?
I feel the same way as Trevor. I mean, it's just, for me, it's, I was there the very first bottle that was ever made. We tested it in my 80s. I think there was about a year in 78 when we were doing testing and tearing down the bike. Somebody just asked me today, how many motors blew up, when you were testing? I said, none. My bikes never broke. We'd tear them down. Dad would change the formula. Maybe the next week we'd race again. He would tear everything apart and just kept working on the formula and, until he came up with 927, and it's been a stable product in the industry forever. And like I said, I reflect on where it came from and how the brand is today. And I remember 10 or 15 years ago, we were trying, man, how can we make oil cool, and it's, it feels like we finally reached that pinnacle, it's a cool brand, and, it's a great product. I mean, it's just quality product. And yeah, my dad tried really hard to get me to work in there. I'd go in for, can you just come in for maybe 6 hours a week? And I don't even know if I could pull that off back in the day, man. I had too much jet skiing and chasing, and too much fun to be sitting in there twisting bottles, caps on bottles.
Yeah, I mean, by the time you were pro when you were 16, and you're basically a full-time racer at 14, 15. So yeah, I guess you're pretty young already and practicing, quote unquote, practicing all the time, anyways, right? So.
Yeah, and he was pretty tough, man. When luckily I did what I did and I made it big, and I got to get out of the house and get away. I'd had enough by that time, and I didn't want to go and deal with him at the shop. But I made a mistake one time when I was working in there, and we were filling FFT, and there was a floater switch on the tank or something, and I forgot to flip it. Man, the FFT rolled all over the floor, and man, he just was, it wasn't good. And that's it. You don't want to.
What a mess.
Your dad's like, hey, just ride. Just go riding, Ronnie.
Yeah, stick to the bike.
Yeah, stick to the bike. Has it changed much, though, Trevor, the formulation of 927, or no?
No, I think
this is
whatever
Dick settled on back in the day.
Well, I think there's, as far as additives, base oil, supplied things, you supersede a formula or things like that, or things are going away and they phase in something that's comparable to it, or a different name or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, the overall, the overall makeup of 927
Right.
is very much the same of when it started. So.
Oh,
I don't know the history. What does 927 stand for? Does that number come from somewhere?
it's a great question.
I mean, I think it kept a bunch of different formulas. I was thinking about it last night, and it was the ninth thing of the second thing or this, and it was just a formulation.
Okay.
And at the time, there was Castrol 747, and I know my dad wanted to make a number that was higher than that.
So that's the story I know too.
Okay.
It's like the Castrol 747, the plane. I think it was so what's bigger than the 747?
A 927.
The numbers and the batches and all these things came together, and it was 927.
One thing though, Ronnie, all those years of running a Maxima sticker, you probably could have got your own sponsorship money for another oil company, but you were kind of screwed. I'm sure your dad. You weren't on the payroll back then, and your dad was just like, thanks, Ronnie. Yeah.
Listen,
I've they definitely were using me back in the day, and I was taking one for the team, and I'm like I said, I'm really really happy and proud that I got to invest in the company early in '84, and I'm still a original shareholder and part owner, and it's a great company, and I have a lot of fun working there, and it's my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I changed the subject. That's okay, but I just want to talk about something Steve just touched on. You were pro at 16. I think you actually raced a pro race at 14 at Mammoth, and you in your career, you admittedly ran into some pitfalls. And now we see these kids like a Jet Lawrence, who's so successful at such a young age. And I just kind of wonder what you think about that and having the right people around him and how to avoid those pitfalls. What your thoughts are?
Yeah, I think the sports just changed so much, and I believe everybody was trying to do the right thing with me when I was younger, whether I was going to let them or not. But like I said, I was so not confined, but my whole life was racing, and it all just kind of culminated when I turned pro, and I got off away from my parents, and then I was going on the road, and I didn't have a team or I had me and my mechanic, and that was it. And on a couple of my mechanics, I don't know, 83 was great because I had Keith, but once I got with Chris Haynes at Honda, it was like, well, we're going to have some fun here. And, I just didn't have a big team around me, and I was doing good enough, and I could just kind of do whatever I wanted to do. Whatever I said I wanted to do, I was doing it. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of fun.
Remember, too, people, like I put this into context sometimes. Ronnie won a 450 Supercross when he was 16.
Yeah, because he rode 250s outdoor.
There was no 125 class.
And 450 outdoor,
there was no 125 Supercross class, right? Ronnie shows up right out of Loretta's 4 months in, whatever, and wins a 450 Supercross, and then wins his first national a week later.
Yeah,
so just put that into like the thoughts of like, I mean, we talk about Bradshaw. Bradshaw made the podium when he was 17. That's awesome too, incredible, right? I think Ronnie's.
It'd be like Deegan. It'd be like Deegan beating Jet this weekend or something like that. Or last year.
Right. 16, and you're beating Bailey and Bomber and Hannah and Bailey and And
those guys weren't nice guys, man. Those guys were back then. It was kill or be killed. And luckily, we had the CMC, the Golden State Series, and I had been racing those guys, and I did ride some pro races, and the local races at Saddleback were like. They'd run all three classes together on Saturday Saddleback, and I was battling with dudes that were 5, 6, 7 years older than me, almost from the beginning. I mean, even when I was coming up on 80s, I was racing Burner and these other guys that were 3 or 4 or 5 years older than me.
Hey, you've mentioned your dad a couple of times, and I remember in some articles you've mentioned it. So I guess clearly he was a little hard on you with your racing. Do you think had he not been so hard on you that maybe you wouldn't have wanted to go out and party or kind of lose focus at times? Do you think it would have been any different?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's hard to say. He was tough on me, and I thought you were going to say if I thought I'd have had the success I had if he wasn't like that. And I don't think I would have because I needed that drive, and there was a million times I wanted to tell him to stick that bike up his ass, but I didn't have the guts to stand there in front of him and tell him that, and I just kept doing it. And down deep, I wanted it, but I needed that pushing and I needed that coaching and everything and to get me to that point. I don't know about the other part of the partying and all that stuff. Like I said, I got out on the road and I was by myself, and you know, I mean, I don't want to bag anybody, but I mean, if I won the race when I was 16, 17, 18, whatever, Miller sponsoring the race, I get up on the podium, they hand me a fresh, cold Miller 40-ounce beer. I'm like, I can't get this on the street, but I can. If I win the race, I can get it. So
no, you got a point. You absolutely got a point.
Yeah, it's just a different time.
Yeah, did anybody think about this?
No, of course not.
Motivated to get the beers.
They were probably like, kid won, give him a beer.
Yeah.
Maybe I spraying the girls and pouring it on their head, and then there was many a times the Supercross would have a party after the race on Saturday night, and I could roll right into the bar, go sit up at the thing, order whatever I wanted. So it just, I don't know, it didn't help the situation.
Right. I think about how talented he was and how smooth he was. Had he been in this era, he would have probably been a Jet.
I tell people, they're like, you watch Chase, you watch Jet.
Yeah.
The comparables are Bailey and Lechien. They also were you watch them, they look like they're aliens compared to Bomber and Hannah and RJ. Right. RJ was really in shape and a bulldog on the bike. Bailey and Ronnie look like Jet. They look smooth. They stood up. They cornered standing up. All that stuff. You could really see the genesis of that kind of riding style. Obviously, Jet's refined it and Chase have refined it. But I was talking to Buddy Antonez about this too. And Budman in 1990, Budman was Stu or Alessi coming out of Loretta's or Ronnie, right?
One of the fastest kids ever.
Was on the same level, and Suzuki's like, "Hey man, see you on Sunday." There's no trainer, there's no coach. Budman flew into the wrong airport. He couldn't rent cars because he was 16. He had to get rides everywhere. No one gave a shit about a 16-year-old kid like Buddy Antonez or Ron Lechien about what they were doing. It's nuts.
To that point, I was very lucky that Brock and Ricky lived in my town.
Yep.
And the first year that I was on, factory Yamaha, I did ride to the airport with Brock quite a few times, or most of the time, and he knew the airports. He'd been going. He knew the way to the track. He could rent. I started renting cars at 17 too, and then then they changed the rule or the law 5 or 6 years later that you had to be 25 to even rent a car. I was renting cars on my own at 17 and checked the insurance waiver and let's go.
It's Ron Lechien on the show, brought to you by the folks at Decal Works, by the way, decalmx.com, PulpMX23, code to save. Maxima, 927 day coming up on Wednesday. We'll be posting on social about it and all of that. Ronnie, I was talking to Trevor today. We were mountain biking and kind of talking, laughing about your stories. Like, your 88 MXDN story, you're up all night. You come back to the hotel. You win the race, overall race. The Geneva Supercross story, you missed practice. Chasing down the trophy girl and tackling her in the middle of the crowd. My point being with Trevor, like, all of the old motocrossers exaggerate shit, and all these old guys talk about the stories and things they did and everything else. But your stories, and you talk to people who were around there, the mechanics, the riders, there's stories about you, Ronnie, that are incredible, and they're all true. That's the point where you're like, wait, I heard Dogger did this, and they're like, yep. And they're like, I heard Dogger did this. Yep. Like, your stories are out there, and we've told them, and people know them, all the things about you did and still won races and all the it's really phenomenal, and they seem all true, Ronnie. That's what's the best.
Well, most of them are, and there was a few guys who were messing around like I was, but they weren't messing around and winning the frickin' race the next night.
Right.
He wasn't alone.
Like that.
Yeah, that's what's funny about you is you're like, hey, Dogger told me a story where he like soaked the champagne, the trophy girl, and she ran her down she was running away from him and he tackled her.
Yeah.
And Dubach's like, yep. Yep.
I had the video of that, and she was actually Brutus Beefcake, the professional wrestler.
Brutus the Barber.
Girlfriend at the time. And I had the bottle of champagne, and everybody's just been drooling on her all day. And I popped the thing, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I just came at her, and she started running. And she started running, and she turned right down the middle of the football field. And I'm running with the champagne bottle. I'm looking at her ass, and I go, fuck, I'm just diving on that.
Yeah. Can you imagine Saturday morning we hear, or Chase after the Alpine Star State. Oh, he left with one of the Monster Girls.
Chased her down, sprayed her down with champagne.
He just showed up 5 minutes before the race in an Uber. He's ready to go.
And 88 Destinations, like, you're out with another girl, and you're in France. And Wardy, I'm like, hey, Wardy, like years ago, I'm like, Wardy, Wardy's like, yep. Yeah. Roger told me, like, Jeff, can you watch Ronnie? Can you keep him straight? And Ronnie's like, or Jeff's like, yeah, no, not really, man. Like, Ronnie's gonna do his thing. Like, I can't really control him, man. And then you won. You went 1-1 on a 500 the next day. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that whole trip was. We started out in Amsterdam. That was a 3-week trip that started with the Amsterdam.
3 weeks. 3 weeks in Amsterdam.
Right there. And the Nations was the second weekend, and by the third weekend we were in Italy at Majora. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't explain it, guys. I really can't. I don't know. Some supernatural.
But I had another guy tell me, and I think it was Holly. I'm not sure. Another guy told me, look, if Ronnie, because it's all the whole, if he had trained, if he had took it serious, he would have crushed everybody. Jimmy or someone's like, and I don't know if it was Jimmy for sure. They're like, no, dude, like he needed it. He was who he was. He was going to win every so often. He was going to dominate every so often. And other times, he wasn't. And if he had trained and all that, he wouldn't ride the same. He wouldn't be the
miserable.
Same. Right, yeah. Ronnie, like that. I don't know. Yeah, people, somebody told me that too one time,
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of pressure, and it was there. I mean, think of how young I was and what I was trying to do, and the guys were like, man, you get in front of that stadium, and my only defense mechanism was to act like it wasn't nothing. This is no big deal. I just roll in, I do whatever. All this shit doesn't matter and everything. And that's just, I was telling Berner the other day when we were doing some Maxima 927 interviews last week, and I said, that's just how I took it, man. I was like, dude, this ain't no big deal. This is just, another race. And that was my mentality. I don't know if it's because I was stoned or whatever, but it just was. And Berner's like, shit, I should have done that, man. Maybe I'd have won some races or something. But.
Yeah. Trevor?
No, I was just, so like, for me, like, so I've known Ronnie since, and Dick since I was maybe 7 or 8 is when I first met them, and I had just started racing a little bit locally and things like that. And so I spent a lot of time with Ronnie when I was a teenager up until, working for the company now. And so I wasn't a part of what he did in racing. I just knew him as the stories that I had heard and how good he was, and he's at Maxima and he's taking care of me and rider support and things like that. But like, we would go, I mean, how many times have we hidden in the bushes together going somewhere fishing, or like that's how I knew Ronnie. Like I would go, he'd take me riding, we'd go on some Indian reservation or some turn track and go ride till they ran us out of there. We'd go hop a fence and go fish together, and that's kind of how I've always known Ronnie. So he was always, really good to me. And again, I've been around him and his family and the brand for a long time. So it's cool when it kind of comes full circle. And I mean, we'll catch up. I'll go sit in his office, and once every couple weeks or whatever, and we'll just tell stories for an hour, Nice. So I've got to see that side of it and be a part of it for a long time. So it's again just full circle is cool.
One thing about Ronnie, one thing about Ronnie that I find in the media is there's some guys like Tim Ferry. He couldn't fucking tell you what result he got at what race or what happened. There's a lot of guys are clueless. Bailey.
Hey, lucky he's got you to remind him.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez, and remind all my audience over and over. But like, there's some motocrossers that they just don't know. And Ronnie, you have such a great memory for your career. It was a long time ago, and you remember the turn, the double, the celebration after. Bailey's that way too. Justin Brayton's really good that way. Just certain riders just can remember their races, and Ronnie, you're one of them for sure. Like, you got a great memory for that.
I think it's something to do with, when you get good at motocross, man, you got to have a really quick memory, a really good memory. It's just reaction. You got to remember that bump was there last lap, and I don't want to hit it. But then you got to raid the rest of the track and remember that spot. And, I guess I got a good memory, and I'm my biggest fan, man. I was a fan of the sport growing up. I made it to the top. I made it into the Hall of Fame. I'm really proud of my career, and And like I said, I used to really like looking at all the photos, and I used to do all the stickers on my helmet. I wanted it to look super cool. And when I see a picture, I go, yeah, that looks fucking cool. And like I said, I grew up a fan of the sport and looking at guys on the cover of magazines going, man, I want to be that guy someday. And lucky for me, it happened.
I showed you a photo of you on the cover of MXA in Vegas, and you were like, dude, that sticker kid, I cut that sticker out the night before. You know what I mean? I cut it around it. I cut it, and I put, that sticker looks cool. Or palm trees or something you had on your helmet. You were just, this shit you remembered. I was like, holy shit.
I love that he's proud of his career and that he remembers it so fondly. That's good, man. I think that's really good that you still have that. And you clearly still have that passion.
And I'm glad you got into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was
ridiculous.
Thank
you very much, Steve.
That was
ridiculous.
Appreciate
it. That's a lot of it's you're doing, and some other guys, and I was glad. I was super stoked to obviously get in, and I have my mom and dad there, and my sister and my family. It was more for them than it was for me, but just to share the whole experience with my family that spent so many years and so many hours of their time to get me to the races and their money and everything. It really felt like it came full circle, and that I was proud to be able to give that to my dad and the family for all the
you deserved it. I mean, you looked at some of the guys in there, and I'm not going to name any names, but you had twice the career of some of the guys in there, and it just was like something that bugged me where I'm like, this guy won the Motocross of the Nations twice. One time won the overall, won a national championship, won indoors, outdoors, every size of bike. Like there was just no reason. Like, it was just like I was just like so pissed that, but the motocross side wasn't represented for a long time. Now it seems like you can't stop it. GL, Dunge, Travis.
Floodgates are open.
Yeah, motocross guys are in every year, but for a long time, no motocross guys were getting in. It was ridiculous.
Respect finally.
Yeah, it was absolutely a no-brainer to put Ron Lechien in the Hall of Fame to me. So
it was cool to watch those guys, to see Travis get in and GL and Dunge and all that. I like to watch their speeches. I'll tell you that for 3 years I was petrified that I was going to have to give that fucking speech. And, the first year they said, "Oh, you made it in," but Nicky Hayden had passed away and he's going to get in. And they go, "You'll get in." The next year, I forgot what it was, but they said, "You got in." And then I freaked out that whole year, the next whole year. And then the next year they called me and said, "You're in, man." And then I really I'm like, oh, man, now
No, that's awesome, man. Hey, Ronnie, thank you for the time. Decal Works bringing you Ronnie Lechien on the show. Maxima, 9/27 day, Wednesday. We'll post some stuff up on our social, of course. And you were a huge part of everything Maxima has done, Ronnie, obviously. And, man, thanks for the time.
Are we out of time with him?
Yeah, why? You got one more?
I would like to ask one more.
One more question.
2 MXDN wins, as Steve said. Do you have any thoughts on our MXDN team this year? Because obviously the Keyboard Warriors are hating on guys that can't go or maybe don't want to go for what I think are decent reasons. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy we have a team. Number one, to not have a team after we won would really suck. And I think we've got a decent shot. I mean, I know France is going to be really tough. Australia, we'll see. I don't know how Hunter's playing out. I don't know but they're going to be tough if he's healthy. And I think Belgium and. I think we've got a pretty good shot at getting a podium. I mean, we might not have all the top guys, but it just seemed like it didn't work out that way. And some years it does, and some years it doesn't. And like I said, I'm just proud that we're at least sending a team. I know Craig's really stoked to be on the team. I know he wanted on really bad last year, and I think that's cool for him to get that experience. And I think they'll all give it their all. It's going to be tough. I know that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I like you said, I think all three of those guys want to go, which most of our guys want to go. There's just circumstances this year that they couldn't. But, yeah, I don't like that people are hating on the guys that couldn't go or whatever. It's like, I'm glad we're going. I think it's great. So, I just wanted to see what you thought.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And, man, thanks for having me on, Trevor. I appreciate it, all you guys. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the show, and maybe I can get on again sometime soon.
What would be really good? In studio.
Oh, wow, yeah.
In studio, Ron Lechien.
Him
here.
and Holly.
He's got a bike.
Yeah.
He's got an e-bike.
Yeah, you got an
Get
e-bike?
him up here,
Yeah.
we'll ride.
Yeah, you've been e-biking, dog?
Yeah.
I got an e-bike. I better start from here and then ride all the way over there. By the time I get over there, I'll be in shape.
You gotta get that. Hey, you gotta get that spacer in the shock. It'll make it way better, dogger. You'll enjoy your ride more. I'm telling you. So
I know. I like your comment, and I've already done that. So yeah, there was no way I could do it.
Oh, okay, good.
And we had to bump it up a little bit.
Yeah, it works much better, and bike settles better, and all of that. So yeah, I'm stoked you're e-bike, and that's great. Trevor, of course, refused the e-bike offer today. Ronnie, he rode his regular bike, so
Oh, he's an animal.
I know.
Look at him.
I know, right? Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Ronnie. Appreciate it, man. Keep in touch, buddy.
All right. Have a good day, guys. Thanks again.
Yep. Thanks, Dogger. See ya.
Ron Lechien, everybody. Legend.
Yeah.
You work with a legend every day, Trevor.
Yeah.